Hello everybody and welcome to the Rangers Review, a Boxing Day special here with myself, Blair, Malloy and Josh Barrie. I hope everyone had a wonderful Christmas. That's watching, those who celebrate. I hope it was Santa brought you everything that you asked for. And today we will be wishing for a few things ourselves as we discuss what a segue that is. Yeah, we'll be carving out our list going into the new year of what we want to see Rangers bring it into the club in January. We were going to be talking about what Rangers need, what Rangers would like in an ideal world, and probably realistically what we think Rangers will get. So it's coming into a very, very important time of the season. Obviously coming in off the back of that disappointing Hearts defeat just the other side of Christmas, which really, I think, brought everyone back down to earth a little bit with a bump. It ended Danny Röhl's unbeaten league run, and it, as Nico Rakin described it afterwards, it was a little bit of a reality check. And I think it just reminded everyone, if we need reminded, that Rangers need serious reinforcements in this window.
Yeah, they probably didn't need reminded, did we? We should probably disclose that we're not here at 9:30 in Rangers Review HQ on Boxing Day, just in case anyone thinks that we are.
We're that committed.
That keen. Committed, not that committed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were there at Tynecastle sitting next to one another, and it's just more of the same, really. I think it was a tight game between two well-organised teams, and what you can say about what Danny Röhl's done so far is he's made Rangers well-organised. Derek McInnes, post-match, spoke a lot. The phrase he used to describe his squad was he was blessed by it.
Yeah.
Quite flowery language, but speaks to obviously how he feels.
Yeah.
Danny Röhl's not said anything like that so far.
No.
And I think that's the difference, much like in Ferencváros as well. Rangers obviously started quite defensively at Tynecastle, really, in terms of their starting 11.
Just on that you said there, he's not really spoken too much about the amount of quality that he's had. I remember he got asked a question in a press conference, it must have been a few weeks ago now, and it was along the lines of, Danny, how many players do you need in January? And he basically just puffed his cheeks out and went, where do you start?
Yeah. And so that's what I think decided the game. Two well-organised teams. Hearts spent a lot less than Rangers in the summer, but at the moment they have a better squad. And to what extent can January fix things for Rangers? I think it can help. I don't think it can fix everything. So what we're going to discuss today is in line with a piece that people can read on the site, some of the reporting that Chris has done, some of my reporting as well, a little bit of a look at what we're hearing Rangers might target in January, where they could also target, where's maybe a necessity but not a top priority, and what might have to wait because they can't go out and they sign 13 players in the summer. That's obviously stating the obvious. They're not going to sign anything close to that. And January notoriously is really difficult. It's not an exact science. And also, I think it's important to stress that the Rangers obviously hired this football consultant, Stig Inge Bjornaby, I think is how you pronounce it.
Yep. You're getting there.
After
a week of practicing.
Yeah. And we've obviously discussed the process, how that'll work, how Rangers transfer process is maybe different from in the past. But a kind of subtle undertone as well is that the squad has been built quite differently to the style of play and the manager, the head coach that is now in place. And that's something that I asked Danny Röhl about at a press conference recently. Rangers need to correct that somewhat because he is working with quite a lot of round pegs and square holes for the type of football he wants to play. And it's a long season ahead. Still a lot of football to be played.
I think that's something that as Rangers fans, as Rangers journalists, all of us, sometimes we get a little bit carried away and think that's it, it's all over, the season's finished. I know me and Derek had a laugh about it the other week. I was saying to him, 3 weeks into this season you were writing everything off, and he's going to continue to do so every time Rangers suffer a defeat. But like you said, there is a lot of football to be played. Rangers do need to improve in January. They need to bring in reinforcements. They need to ship a few out. I think some of the mistakes of the summer have to be rectified, and rectified to me means replacing faces who are obviously not a good fit at Rangers. It's not worked out, and there's not a lot of point in persevering with it, which brings us on to the first point of order, Rangers' priorities in this window. And I think this is something that anyone who's watched Rangers this season, anybody who follows the club, will know that Rangers are sorely lacking a number 6. They are solely lacking someone in the middle of the park who can put their foot in the ball, who can dictate the tempo, who can take the ball on the half-turn off the defence and move it forward. Because right now, as you see on Tynecastle on Sunday, they were totally outplayed. They were totally ran over the top of, and Rangers had no control in the middle of the park.
Yeah, they didn't. And people can also read on the website if they want a piece we published a couple of days ago on this topic. Rangers search for a number 6. How does Nico Raskin's contract, which we reported on a few weeks, how does that tie into things? Joe Rothwell has been reported for a couple of weeks now, is expected to be allowed to go back to the English Championship. He's played hardly anything really since Danny Rule came to the club. Just going to throw up, I've only got a few graphs today, but just going to throw up on the screen.
That's everyone's Christmas present.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's the editor's Christmas present, isn't it? This is Nico Raskin's pass map at Tynecastle. Red is a completed pass. Yellow is a non-completed pass. I think Raskin is a really good player who's underperforming at the moment. I do subscribe to the theory that he's not been helped by, like many Rangers players, it's hardly been a beacon of development. It's hardly been a place to advance your career. His place in the Belgium starting 11 for me, while a complete frustration that he's not performing like that domestically, I think speaks to the fact that he's a really good player. However, there's a long running theory that he's not an out and out number 6. And this is something that, going back and speaking to previous managers of his time in Belgium and just looking at how different managers have used him at Ibrox, he's tended to not be regarded as this tempo setter. And that's what Rangers need for me. Something that is completely underrated is, and in the piece I wrote on just before Christmas, it was using Stephen Davis as the example of this. What Davis did for Rangers, apart from being a brilliant footballer, is he controlled things. He sped things up at the right time. He slowed things down at the right time. He didn't lose the ball in the wrong areas. And what we can see in this pass map, just to give it a bit of context, yellow was unsuccessful passes. There was a few times in that game of the weekend where Rangers needed to keep the pressure on, or they needed to switch play. And what you can see is it's actually kind of the longer switches of play that have let Raskin down, where maybe a teammate isn't moving, or he's moving and the ball's behind him. And again, when you have a team that's changing all the time, Danny Rule said this recently, relationships haven't really been built on the ball, because it's been about can we be organised off the ball and then make the most of it when we do have that. I don't think that always lends itself to a number 6 trying to identify runs and form relationships and know when a player is going to move into certain positions. But also we've probably seen enough from Raskin, even though he is under contract until 2028. And likely probably moves in the summer of 2026. We've probably seen enough to know that Danny Rule doesn't regard him as that player who's going to make 90 passes a game, speed things up, and not lose the ball at the wrong moments. His pass completion was only 78%, and pass completion is a bit of a myth sometimes, obviously. But also it's helpful sometimes to show that you probably want your number 6 to be higher than that in a game like this.
It can be easy to pad those numbers out if you're making 5-yard passes either side of you that don't go anywhere, and it's all about the passes that actually make things happen. I would say a lot of that, but even at that, very rarely do you see Nico Raskin making defence-splitting passes, making those incisive passes that can open up teams. And like you said, dictating the tempo. Is such a major thing for Rangers, because how many times have you felt it at Ibrox where it feels one-dimensional, it feels one-paced, and it feels like there's no one to pick and choose when the game speeds up, when the game slows down. Barrie Ferguson was a master at it. He was really the apex of what we're looking for here. Someone that knows exactly when they can move a game, and they can dictate it. They can be the leader of the orchestra. But Rangers don't have that at the minute. And that is definitely something they will be looking at. And that also comes to the point of, we're going to come on to say that they also need perhaps someone in that sort of number 10 role. And if you have someone a bit deeper that is pulling the strings, I think it's then easier for those number 10s to actually impact the game, because they're confident that they're going to get found with the right passes.
So we think that number 6 is an area that Rangers are going to move in, and maybe then you pair Nico. He's a higher midfielder. He's a number 8 who can sometimes be a number 6 but can play higher. And if you look at what Rule's done so far, he's only played an out-and-out number 6. Apart from the second half at Tynecastle where you're chasing the game, he's only played an out-and-out number 6 with 3 centre-backs behind him, because I think he doesn't trust any of his players individually to kind of hold down that role. So moving on, other positions that we think Rangers will try to target. Again, January is unpredictable and a hard window to improve your squad, and you only need to look at recent Rangers windows as a result of that. Left back cover, obviously. That has been a necessity all season. Jade McGoma, I think, has done well, but he's a 19-year-old who should be competing for that place, not completely relied upon.
Absolutely.
Especially as he's only the player who can really play left wing back. Will come on to wing back.
He'll also be gone next year.
Exactly.
Let's not forget that. He's not going to be here next season.
Yeah.
And Rangers can't be building. You look at that left-hand side at Tynecastle on Sunday, it was Mikey Moore and JD McGoma, really where most of anything Rangers were trying to do was coming from.
Yeah.
Both those players won't be at Ibrox next year.
Yeah.
Both those players will be back down south.
Yeah.
And Rangers have then got to start again and go, okay, what does the left side of the park look like?
Exactly. So left back, and then also some form of creative option, that right-sided number 10 position, presuming that Roll, and we'll come on to this in a minute, presuming Roll sticks with this kind of fluid back 4, back 5 system, where one of his wing backs on the right is more advanced. It's been Max Aarons as of late. And then you've got kind of a right-sided number 10, obviously played a 5-3-2 at Tynecastle. Rangers have loads and loads and loads of players who can play the left-sided number 10 position. Nadeem Barame, Tello Asgard, Cheji Gisama, Mikey Moore. They're all better off the left than they are off the right. It's more natural to them.
And we must say, this is, in theory, can play the left-sided position. Their actual performances this year have maybe left a lot to be desired as to why you would want them there. But if you were talking about everyone playing well...
That's their favourite position.
Yeah.
Oliver Antman joined as kind of an out-and-out touchline hugging winger.
Yeah.
He's played in that right pocket. Points for Danny Rule doing that.
Doesn't work.
Doesn't suit him. Yeah, it's not his. It's not his position.
I don't think it's been harsh to say that he can't play that role.
Yeah, and it again, this comes down to the fact of this summer was supposed to be the end of Rangers jumping about, for want of a better phrase, from one style to another, and not appointing a coach mid-season and having to wait until next summer for the squad to catch up with his ideas. But to an extent, that has happened again. So those are the three of the positions we think that Rangers will target. Will they get all three? Maybe not.
Yeah.
Probably not in this January window. Who knows?
Let's try and be positive.
Yes.
It's Boxing Day. People are still waking up from potentially with their hangovers.
Yeah.
So we don't want to
having their leftovers.
bring you down too much. Let's go on to what you want at Rangers.
Yeah.
If you had your pick tomorrow, where are you strengthening that squad?
So the next section we've got is want and need, and I've got one overriding point here, Blair, right wing back, which for me is of paramount importance.
Which is currently held by Max Aarons.
Yeah. I asked Danny Rule a couple of press conferences ago on that topic, like, do you need lots of windows to effectively get the squad to the base minimum of what you would want if you to play your style of play? And he said, my wish is to have two shapes. You can play with a back 5 with a winger on one side, or a back 4 with full backs who are more defenders than wingers. I don't like to have just one plan A. And this is always the same because the opponents aren't stupid. So if we move on to our second map of the day, Blair, this is the Rangers pass network from their home game at Hibs. And I think this quite nicely summarises what Danny Rule is trying to do and depicts some of the holes in the squad. So this is Rangers pass network, and what this is doing is this is giving the average position from where a player made their passes. The bigger the circle, the more the passes. So Connor Barron, I think, played the most passes that night. But it's showing generally like where are players receiving the ball, what is their average position. So you can see, as we've discussed there, Jaden Magoma, although he's better going forward than Max Aarons, he's been deeper because of just the makeup of the squad. So Rangers have lots of players in that left number 10 position where Finlay Curtis is, and they have lots of players in that right centre-back position where Dujon Sterling is. So you can swing from a back 5 into a back 4 more naturally if you're swinging towards the right, which means the right wing back pushes up again because you don't have many natural options on the wide on the right. But what that means is that Aarons has been more advanced than Magoma. It's been a big problem for me because he's not a player who advances the ball kind of on his own.
Yeah,
he goes backwards too much, and those two positions where Max Aarons and Mikey Moore are, that's the two positions I'd be targeting the most. You can see Connor Barron is the number 6 there, and we've just spoken about the number 6.
Yeah.
We know the issues up front, but you can kind of get away with it in other positions. And you have to. It's January. Like, you cannot fix every single position. I think Rangers need someone on that right-hand side who can give Rule the flexibility of sometimes defending as a back 5, but attacking with a front 5, with that right wing back becoming a winger. Someone who can progress the ball individually. I think you need a left footer out there. If you look at that triangle of Sterling, Moore and Aarons, they all want to do the same thing in terms of cutting inside. No one really wants to hit the byline. No one's a power. Sterling, maybe if he was in a more advanced position, has the power and the pace to hit the byline. That is a type of position that if Rule's going to stick with this fluid back four, back five, which as I've hopefully explained, swings around to the right as opposed to the left because of the makeup of the squad, you need a solution there.
Yeah, I think that was probably shown very, very clearly against Hearts. Not to keep going back to this game,
Yeah.
It's obviously the most recent example where Max Aarons was seeing a lot of the ball. He was getting a lot on the ball, but infuriatingly not being able to go past his man.
Yeah.
And just there was a very specific moment, and I turned around to you and I spoke about it at the time when he was in the first half and he has the opportunity to hit the ball, hit it first time, like cross the ball first time.
He plays it back.
He stops, he turns backwards and plays it back to James Tavernier. Yeah. And that is just a boy that has no confidence, that has no belief in his own ability to whip a ball in, to actually go and make things happen. No, I don't think Max Aarons is a bad footballer. I don't think he's a terrible player. He's obviously got an incredible amount of ability to get to the level he got to in the first place. But for whatever reason, whether it's the jersey weighing too heavy, whether it's Scottish football, whether it's his tactics, he is just not in the wrong movie right now. He is absolutely not the right man to make anything happen for Rangers. And you could see he was getting frustrated last Sunday against Hearts. You could see he was getting frustrated because he just couldn't get anything going. And he put in a pretty heavy tackle at one point, just out of pure anger. And when you get to that point, you know, okay, this guy needs, at the very least, taking out the team. He needs to be given a rest. He needs to clear his head, and you need to have something else. But again, that is part of the overriding picture that Rangers can't rest players because they don't have enough quality and depth.
And they don't really have another right wing back because Tavernier, he has played that role at points. Does he still have the legs to get up and down like that? So again, what we're discussing is if you have 3 or 4 January signings, you need them to raise the level of others. So if you have someone in even that right-sided number 10 role or the right wing back role, it probably improves that whole right-sided triangle. Because if, again, to look at this map, if you have someone with a left foot where Mikey Moore is, it changes the dynamic, maybe creates more space for a right wing back to run in behind. Simultaneously, if you have a left footer wide on the right, it varies the angles, it makes them more unpredictable, all basic stuff, but that right side, the triangle, if we take that as an example, is too easy to play against because it's too one-dimensional and that all the players are right-footed. So I think a right wing back, I think Rowe will continue to use this shape because he wants Rangers to be as defensively solid as possible.
He seems to like it anyway. He seems to like the flexibility of being able to adapt to a 5 and a 4 when it suits him.
Yeah, and as we keep coming back to through this podcast, it is almost lesser of two evils in that you've got to. There's a number of players here who you're going to have to work throughout the second half of the season with. There's not a number of players, I'm sure, who are better players than they're showing. So it's about making these tailored additions. If you get 1 or 2 players on the right, it does that improve your right-sided threat. And then suddenly, does your players on your left, the left side, have more space because the right threat is more pronounced? If you can get someone who's creating more chances for your striker, do those strikers score a few more goals? It's all chicken and egg conversations, but you've got to start somewhere.
You sign someone better, so they upgrade on that position. But also, you bring better players in the team. The other players respond to that. Like
in theory,
I think Mikey Moore looks a better player in a better team. Yeah. I don't think that's a big statement to say. I think if you put Mikey Moore in a functioning football team, he looks like a really, really good player.
And he has looked better since
he has looked good, but he's doing a lot of it himself. And the fact he's so young and having to do a lot of it himself, I don't think is particularly conducive for his development either. I don't think it's great for him to be trying to win games on his own. I think that if you have some functioning players round about him, then I think that'll boost his confidence, take him up a different level. I think Rangers would see the best of him. If we move on to the third point then, what Rangers will want long term. Think about a bigger picture, what this squad needs that maybe isn't doable in January or maybe isn't the best to just try and plug in January because you might not get the best value for money, you might not get the best option available, but where would Rangers be looking long term to plug these holes in the squad?
I'm not saying this for the hot take because that's not really my bag, but everywhere they do need to upgrade everywhere because, and I don't say that just from
that's the clip of the show, right?
Yeah,
Rangers need to change every single position,
but it's not. It's more because, again, all the issues we've spoken about so often, people know them in regards to recruitment and what's happened up until this point. But again, you're looking at that team against Hearts and you're thinking, how many players are going to be in the starting 11 next season? How many players do you build around? Where's the spine of the squad? Again, all points that we have made before. So you need to start squad building, and at the moment we're not really seeing who those players are that are going to provide the 4 or 5 that you build around next season. If we break that down, I don't think you'll see Rangers prioritise centre-back because they have a lot of players there. Jiga's coming back from AFCON. He's going to stay on loan for the rest of the season. Yeah. John Souttar, who's having contract talks with the Rangers at the moment, he is hopefully being back for that Old Firm game. Derek Cornelius is still, as we understand it, got a good chance of playing quite a lot of football this season if his recovery goes as planned. On the initial prognosis, Manny Fernandez has come onto a bit of a game, hasn't he? You've still got Clinton Ciala there. You've got Dujon Sterling.
So while the quality can be debated, there certainly is the numbers there when everyone's fit at least.
It's probably the area where you're thinking we can get through.
Yeah.
We can get through there. Striker position, something we've spoken about so much.
Yeah.
You can't carry 4 number 9s on big wages if Danilo, Miovski and Chermiti remain. So maybe that's an area where Rangers can be circumstantial.
This is something that a lot of people talk about, the fact, put Chermiti out on loan. I just don't think that's ever going to happen.
Yeah,
I don't think that's something that even should be considered. Not because I don't think it would be best. I just don't think the Rangers are ever going to take that approach, for better or worse.
I think Rangers will look at it. Don't forget, they're going to be out of Europe mercifully in a few weeks' time.
Yeah.
I think they'll look at it and they'll think, Miovski can score domestically. He's not the all-purpose striker for all occasions. Chermiti, they've invested a lot of money in him, Blair, and you know, they you don't just cut that after a certain amount of games. As much as the rhetoric will be, I'll just get rid and get someone else in. Again,
it's a hell of an admission of failure to banish a guy after 6 months after spending the best part of 10 million quid on him.
Yeah, and Danilo's obviously still on the contract too. So could they move there? Potentially. I think there's still a need for another number 9. But again, you're looking at that and thinking, for the wages there, for the numbers there, is that going to be top priority?
If you also take that as a little bit of a bigger point, and I digress a little bit to go off on a little bit of a tangent, there's people who are saying, Rangers need a centre forward. And I do agree, I think Rangers do need a centre forward. And I would personally like to see one in January. But that's also dependent on signing the right centre forward. Mm-hmm. Given the current record of signing centre forwards, what if they sign another guy who can't score? Yeah. Then all of a sudden you've got 4 number 9s, none of them can hit the back of the net, and your major problem even worse.
Yeah.
So I think unless you are, and every signing is a gamble, we know that, let's caveat that by saying every single signing has an element of risk. There is no such thing as a sure thing in football. But unless you're confident you're going to get a guy who is 80-20, this guy's going to be a success, then I don't think you can take another gamble.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Point well made. Final chart then.
Thank you.
I'll tell you if the comments on. Final chart, I think, kind of sums this whole conversation up. This is minutes played by age. And what you'd normally see by halfway through this, so the higher the players in the chart, the more minutes they've played, and the further to the right, the older they are. So what you'd normally see at this point in the season is where Jack Butland is, you'd see like 4 or 5 players around him, some closer to the younger side, but you'd have like a core of 4, 5, 6, 7 players who had played a lot of minutes. This again is Rangers' issue. Look at the amount of players who are kind of just in the middle, who've played a bit, who've contributed a bit, but haven't formed part of that core. This time last year when, and this is where Patrick Stewart's downfall really as CEO started for me, when Rangers sacked Philippe Clement, for me, the rest of that season should have been about, right, we're going to develop young players.
Yeah.
We're going to work out who can be a part of things next season, and we're going to start the process now. What Rangers, I think, have to do, while still trying to win stuff this season, is start the process now for next season. Who are your players that you want up and to the right in the core of your team? Who of the players in the middle, whether it be Diamande or Italo Asgard or Oliver Antman or Yusuf Chermiti, who are you going to discard and not invest in, or who are you going to give an opportunity, and whether that is to with a view to sell in the summer or to be a part of things next season?
Can I counterpoint that slightly by saying I take that in theory, basically going, okay, who are the guys going to be here long term? Let's put them in their favoured position. Let's get them as much football as possible. playing them together, building those relationships that have been missing so much for Rangers, and then the guys that you're thinking about jettisoning in the next year, you phase them out of the squad, a la little bit Joe Rothwell, who has been injured, who has not been in the squad for other reasons. But in terms of like, it wouldn't surprise me if he's played his final game for Rangers, put it that way.
Yeah.
But if you put guys in and they have a poor 6 months, even if you do believe, if JD Gisama has all the ability in the world, has a poor 6 months, Rangers win nothing, you're then going into next season with a lot of the support going, this guy is scarred by proxy, and he doesn't get a free pass. Even if he's one of the guys where you're building for a future, he doesn't get a free pass going into next year.
I just think what's the alternative? Because like, you look on that list and you look at Kieran Dowell near the bottom, and in this mental season of squad building, where again Kevin Thelwell and Russell Martin and Patrick Stewart have all been sacked by Andrew Kavanagh.
Yeah,
I just think it can't be stressed enough that Rangers have pivoted from plan to plan, from playing style to playing style, from this player to that player, so much in recent years that nothing can be developed. There can be no consistency built, because I was reading something recently about how, I think it was Manchester City executives have this saying where 24 hours after a football game, you put your head in a fridge. Not literally. You have to cool it down and don't make judgments in those 24 hours, where it feels like so much of Andrew Kavanagh perhaps is trying to change this, and but so much of Rangers squad building has been, it's just pivoted so quickly from one direction to the other. So what I would like to see them do is get a few more players around Jack Butland, who has made a lot of mistakes, I think, recently, and his underlying numbers don't look great, and start to try and build some sort of core for next season, because Rangers will never win anything again unless they have 4, 5, 6 players who are a core of their squad that play most weeks, that understand what the manager wants on the pitch and can provide it consistently. The January window, I think, will be about working agilely, for want of a better phrase, to find players who can maybe improve certain positions.
Working and diving, as I think it's known in these parts of the world.
Yes. And try to start the building process now, because what we've seen for this first 6 months of the season is none of that really in terms of individual development. Yeah,
well, I do tend to agree with you, in as much as this is a real mismatch of all different styles of players, both for all different styles of manager. It's as if Danny Rule is trying to make a cake and someone else has bought him the ingredients, and the person who's bought the ingredients has been sacked over and over again, essentially. And what he's been left with is this real smorgasbord of players that don't really fit one thing or another. And don't get me wrong, I think that can sometimes still work as long as the quality is there. But what I think is really damning is the fact that not even have these players been bought for systems that aren't even being played at Rangers anymore. They were never good enough to play the systems anyway. And I think that that's what's really, really coming into the fore, because Telo Asgard, for example, and I'm just picking him because he's the first name I seen on my screen there, even if he was playing in a team that exactly suited him down to the ground, I don't think he's shown anywhere near enough quality to warrant a place in the team, you know? So it's not as if it's just it's horses for courses. Rangers don't have the right guys in the right positions. I don't think they have enough quality across the board anyway. Yeah. But
then from Danny Rule's perspective, this week Stephen Gerrard did that interview with Ali McCoist, and they had the haunting line, "I'm not a magician. Basically, I need the right tools to work with, and I want to help Rangers," but effectively saying that he didn't believe that he could do that job at this period of time because of the situation he'd have inherited. Danny Rule will ultimately live or die by the results he gets, but I think again, to take it back to that Hearts game, McInnes's post-match comments compared to Rule showed is that you live or die by your recruitment as a manager. You can be well organised, you can do the training, but you need players to carry it out, to have the confidence to carry it out, the ability, the chemistry between them, and the base to build from. So he's tried to get that base defensively. He's tried to develop the system which we've showed above in the past network. Let's see what you can get in January to try and support his second half of the season aims.
Yeah, and I think it'll be, I for one, from a personal perspective, I'm very intrigued I think. I don't want to say excited because I've been hurt before, Josh. So I'm going to say intrigued as to what Danny Rule is going to want in a player. What kind of market he's going to be looking at, because rightly or wrongly, players now from the English Championship come with a bit of a they don't get as much of a pass at Rangers anymore because Rangers fans have been burned by players from there. I think that rightly or wrongly, if you bring a guy in on big money from a team in the lower reaches of England, old fans are going to be sceptical straight away. So I think it'll be interesting to see which market Stanley Rowe shops in, what kind of age profile he's looking for. I think experience is absolutely paramount. I think he's going to have to get guys in who can come in and be real leaders in that dressing room, because I don't think there's half of that by a long way. And then that's when I think you can truly judge Danny Rule. I don't think you can judge him. I know it's hard because you almost have to give him this period between when he was hired until the end of the January window at least, before you can then start going, all right, okay, now you've got a couple of bodies in, now I can see what you're trying to do. I've seen people on the internet, and the internet is the internet. We know what that's like. Already going, oh, this guy doesn't get it. You're writing him off. And I'm still thinking to myself, this is still a guy that's working with these players that were failing so badly, and he's managed to get a tune out of them. And that in itself shows me that he has something about him. He has something about him with these players. And I don't think it can be quite stressed just how poor some of the quality is he's been given to work with. So I think that when he gets his own players in, when he does eventually plug those gaps with permanent signings, now hopefully you get a couple that just work out for you, which I think Rangers have been severely unlucky the last few years. They've just had players that come in with good reputations and they get injured or it doesn't quite work, and you're just waiting for one to come in and go, oh, that worked. That is a player that really worked. And I think if he can do that, he might be onto something.
Yeah, he might be, and the run of 6 wins in 8 games. The whole just winning thing is always the rebuttal is how sustainable is it. But what I think that run of games did show is that Danny Rule can change things tactically in an effective way. He can build a base. He is not precious in terms of sticking with an idea for an idea's sake. But yeah, keep coming back to it. You'll never die by the quality you have, and also the confidence. You look at someone like Tello Asgard, who came in, was given this huge sell by Russell Martin, is then out injured for 2 months, and a lot of pressure. He's coming into a difficult team. Is it a different story if he has a pre-season and there's a better base for him to come into, and there's a few experienced players ahead of him who can take the pressure off, similar for Oliver Antman? It's all ifs, but and maybes. What Danny Rule needs is a few certainties, a few 7 out of 10 guarantees, a few, I know what this player is going to give me, and that will help the player next to him. And how much can that improve Rangers' offering in the second half of the season?
To quote an old Chan at Ibrox, we all dream of a team of Davy Weirs.
Nice.
And that'll do us for today. Again, we hope you had a wonderful Christmas and enjoying the festive period off. If you're lucky enough to be off work over the next 2 weeks, hope you enjoy it. We'll be back on the 27th.
Tomorrow.
We're back tomorrow. Yes, covering Rangers against Motherwell. It is Motherwell.
Big
yes.
game. I think
it is.
so.
It is.
Yeah.
The fixtures all get convoluted into one at this time of year. So don't forget to keep across the Rangers review for all of your inside scoops about Rangers, and we'll be back every day with all the best analysis of the club that we all follow. But for now, thanks for watching and thanks for listening.